Good morning. Call this meeting of the Binghamton Local Development Corporation to order. I think this is fun. Mayor, do you want to do the introduction?
Sure, absolutely. So joining us is the new executive director of the BLDC, who also serves as director of economic development for the city of Binghamton, Sarah Glose. Sarah is no stranger to economic development in our region, our city of Binghamton, serving with Empire State Development for many years, and she can talk more about that. But we're really excited to have her aboard, and this is her first meeting, but there's a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and the folks that I've talked to in the business community, entrepreneurship community, they're really thrilled to have you. So I'll leave it to you if you want to say anything.
Well, my remarks are later in the program, I
Okay.
think. So, but thank you very much for the warm welcome, and I'm excited to be here.
Good. Very good.
Sarah did a stint with the Port Authority of New York, which is fascinating. So we're very lucky to have attracted you to the city. So.
I got to go to the top of the George Washington Bridge. That was a fun day.
Did you have to pay the tolls for it though?
No, no.
Okay.
She had a conversation.
Yeah.
Yesterday and 59.
So you've got in front of you the minutes from the 27th meeting. I'll take a motion whenever everybody's ready.
I make a motion.
Anybody have any questions or comments about the minutes? Very good as always. All right, all in favor?
Hi.
All right, great, thank you. Rachel, do you want to do the financial report?
Yes.
Okay.
So we will start on page 4 of the treasurer's report with the restricted account. The month-end balance in the restricted account was $1,120,111.85. And then we will skip over to page 6 for the UDAG account. Month-end balance in the UDAG account was $1,183,579. Looking at the loans receivable for UDAG, let's see, we've got a couple of people who were a little bit late in paying. You can see DD Bing, they have paid. One North Depot and Tom Haynes were both experiencing that issue with the not having the checks made out correctly. They have since reissued checks. North Depot is behind again. They're still behind for January and now February. Tom Haynes is caught up through March. So I am in contact with Josh Bishop, and he has said that he will be dropping a check by at some point this week, so I don't expect him to be outstanding for very much longer. Looking at the rest of the accounts, the unrestricted account on page 8, no activity. The Broom Enterprise Triad on page 9, no activity. The Mayor's Veterans Initiatives on page 10, no activity. The grant account on page 11, no activity. In default, we have the same borrowers that we have had. We will be soon starting our legal action against Ariel Hendricks. We've sent her final notice that we reserve the right to take legal action at any time because she has not paid her loan in over 6 months. So that is where we are with that. Everybody else is basically in the same place. So the current delinquency percentage of the portfolio is 29.38. The current delinquency percentage of all loans not designated as non-performing is 0.11.
I just answered a question. At one time, did we look, well, everybody's new, but did we look at one time into direct withdrawal for people's checking accounts? Setting it up that way where the first of the month
We haven't done that to my knowledge, right?
I thought we had talked about that.
We probably have talked about it, but
Because maybe for new loans and things, it's a good place to start. Because then Tom wouldn't have had trouble with, you know, and whatever bank they work with, they certainly would work with ours. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
That's two of them had check issues.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't think do we charge them late fees?
yes, we charge some late fees.
Like, so Josh Bishop is gonna be paying like multiple late fees there.
Yes, he will be. He'll be paying 5% for each, like 5% of the payment for each month that he's late.
It's 5% out of the amount that's due, right?
Yes.
Let's call this Visa. I just thought, I remember that it might be a great way of going forward. I mean, it doesn't help us with the
Yeah.
MR, but
That's a good idea.
Certainly the world's going paperless, so might as well get on board.
Anyone have any other questions about the report?
I just have a quick one on the unrestricted account, the miscellaneous income that went in and out. What was that?
Sure. So let me find that. The miscellaneous income. Oh, so that was, we had a grant through the Mayor's Veterans Initiative, and we had a bill to pay for some work that was done on the veterans home. We don't have checks for the Mayor's Veterans account, so we transferred it and wrote the check from the unrestricted account. Thanks.
Anything further? Thank you, Rachel, very much. There's no old business. New business, the first item is the BLDC business plan competition timeline and prizes.
Joel, do you want to
Okay.
take that away?
All right, well, we are shortly going to be announcing our annual BLDC business plan competition. Pass around the flyer here. This has we're increasing the prizes this year to $7,500. We've had it gone through kind of a dry spell here with COVID. I think, set back the community, certainly the whole region for that matter. And so we want to stimulate entrepreneurship through our annual business plan competition, which has been quite successful over the years in attracting development to the city. We've had over the years successful businesses who won this competition were Parlor City Vegan, Tesserina Boutique downtown, Next Wave Motors, Freshie Sites, Communikey, Idea Craft, and last year we had Claw Industries, which not only won the business plan competition, but also purchased property in the city of Binghamton. We expect them to be a future borrower, and I'm reaching out to them to be potentially a speaker. This event has, we're going to have a first place prize of $5,000, second place prize of $2,000, third place of $500. So definitely a bonus for reaching for that first place. Then some gift certificates for the finalists. There also, we have a number of businesses that have cooperated over the years of providing services that amount to about $5,000. Some of our past winners have helped out, like Freshie Sites, which provides $500 in website services. Idea Craft, which Evelina Holdridge was actually one of our first winners in the competition. She has provided branding services for her firm for a number of years. We also have co-working membership at the Kaufman Southern Tier Incubator, membership in the Greater Binghamton Chamber for a year, $500 in legal counsel provided by Coughlin and Gerhardt, and then 5 hours of accounting services provided by Davidson Fox, as well as $500 in sign creation services from 3i Graphics and Signs. These are all Binghamton businesses, so it's certainly keeping dollars in the community. This event kicks off with an online business development workshop on March 30th. We have a number of speakers lined up for that. We work in this entire event with SUNY Broome Entrepreneurial Assistance Program. of which we are a financial partner through the Broome Enterprise Triad. And we also reach out to and work with Binghamton University's Kaufman Incubator, Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. Thank you, Per Stromhag. I guess he's not on the call, but in any case, we will have that workshop the end of March, and the final session. There's deadlines in the event, as you can see, for when written business plans are due, and then a competitor presentations coming up the end of May. We'll have a live session at the Kaufman Incubator, which features a 15-minute presentation by each of the competitors, and then a 10-minute question and answer session. And from that, we determine the winner, second and third place. And we're grateful for all our sponsors who've made this event possible over the years and this year.
It's great.
So Joel, we will coordinate a press conference to
Absolutely.
kick off.
Yeah. we need to
Probably
get
in
that.
early March, right? Or next couple of weeks.
I would say next week. if we
Sooner
can
rather
do
than
it
later. Okay.
sooner, Yep.
Good.
And get this out on the city website through social media, through our partners, the Binghamton University, and certainly SUNY Broome's Entrepreneurial Assistance Program, as well as board members and any and all.
Joel, this is an increase in the prizes from last.
Correct.
cycle,
Yeah, we
right?
have, in the past, we had just a $5,000 prize for first place, winner take all. And so the thought here is increasing it. Mayor David was supportive of that. I've had spoken with you as well. And so we're increasing the prize amount here just to incentivize more people to participate in the competition. So this has great benefits for City of Binghamton and BLDC.
Joel, if you have any recommendations of folks we could reach out to, just send out an email and we'll do
Absolutely.
so. That'd be great.
Okay. Thank you.
Who are the judges? You know yet?
Judges we've had in the past,
That's all right.
that's all right.
Really terrible
But
question, sorry.
Devon Draco, Paris
But you
Stromhag,
haven't finalized for
but
this
it
year yet,
isn't
right?
all finalized. We're still working.
All right, next item is the plans and priorities for the BLDC.
Yes. So we wanted to add this just to have a distinct spot in the agenda to talk about this. I'm still learning kind of what the BLDC is and does and how we can best utilize the funds that we have. But obviously from Rachel's report, you guys have seen that we have a decent amount of money. I believe that the UDAG account or the restricted fund that we need to really spend down this year, both.
Which one is that, Steve?
The restricted.
Restricted,
Okay.
okay. So we're gonna be focusing on trying to find ways that we can spend that money so we don't have to give it back to Steve. We'd like to keep it in our accounts. So some of the things we had been talking about was potentially some sort of facade program focusing on our larger commercial properties. We talked about always microloans are great. Those are really impactful to the people that we give them to, but very hard to spend down over $1 million, $25,000 at a time. So while that's part of our priority, we're looking for some bigger ideas and potentially businesses that are looking to do things in the city. As the commercial and private rates in banking start to go up, I think our programs will be even more competitive. Right now, it's just the availability of commercial financing has been so affordable that folks may not be turning to these other alternatives. And so we're hoping as those rates go up, people turn to us and want to work with us, and we can have an influence on the way that they develop in the city of Binghamton so that it's mutually beneficial to them, to us, to our community. But I wanted to hear if you guys had any particular ideas at this time. If not, the idea was to seed this in this meeting and then have a follow-up email survey of type to get your feedback on some things.
I think a facade program, beautify our city, making it, Saul Stern would be willing to look into that because our facade needs some work, and if I could be like the poster child for it, walk me through it, I'll do it, then others will see how,
Yeah, how it works.
if I gotta spend my money, if I have to do it on a grant, a loan or whatever, it'd be a great way to show that it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're certainly still in the very early process of developing that. So if it was better to do it as a loan or a grant or some other
Combination.
combination. Yeah,
Yeah.
we are certainly open to any and all ideas that'll make it more marketable to our businesses, especially Court Street's obviously a huge priority.
I don't know, in the past with the cities, I think they've had 2 rounds of Main Street facade, maybe, or at least 2.
Mhm.
It was kind of focused downtown. I'd like to see it focused downtown as well as, neighborhood business districts as well. Things like Clinton Street, Robinson Street, the places that have that walkable type of buildings and facades that may just need a little bit of an upgrade. They may need some lighting, landscaping, that type of thing too.
Absolutely.
So you'll send out. an
Yeah,
email
I'm gonna
basically?
send out, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I didn't assume people would be chomping at the bit to have ideas yet, but certainly we'll be looking for your feedback and ideas over the next few months.
Yeah,
In what way?
Well, we
shape, or
only
form?
have one banner.
Yes.
Holder now. Yeah, I mean, that's minor. I mean, the DBBA would be willing to pay for more. Because
one
when
of-
you have events down here, it really looks cool when people are driving through
Yeah.
to see that there's things going on.
I think was the issue with that the wind? There's certain parts of Court Street that get so much wind that we can't have the banners up, but certainly we can identify
Well, they put the,
the little holes in
sea
them.
cuts in it, but it's still a problem. There's so much breeze barreling
Well,
down
okay, we can
Court
talk
Street,
about
but
that.
certainly we
other-
can talk about it.
Yeah, there's other strategic corridors that
Yep.
any sort of signage or advertisement. could
And you can do
potentially
light
be,
post banners too.
Right.
Locally.
Yeah.
Yeah, graphics, I'm sure we'd love to be able to do that for us if you could turn that into something for us.
So just to be clear, the amount of money that's in the restricted, is that the 760,000? Is that what we're talking about? Or-
No, the restricted account is 1,120,000.
And are the eligible uses for that pretty broad?
Yes and no, depending on exactly what you're trying to do with it, there can be restrictions, area restrictions, hiring restrictions that have to be met in order to do it. It's difficult to say what you can do because there's so much you can do, but if you tell me something, I can look into it, make sure that we're meeting all the, dotting all the i's, crossing all the t's.
but as a general rule, Steve, if it was in a CDBG eligible neighborhood, that would be a good first step in terms of,
If it's considered like a capital improvement of a public facility, like the sidewalk, lamp improvements, those kinds of things in a low mod area, yes.
Okay.
Those are generally eligible.
We'll spend that money.
I'm counting on it.
Some of jumps are the projects that were produced in the study of the ballpark in that district. That just was just done, the stadium district.
Yes, yeah.
we've
That's
got a
a-
lot of planning documents. We've got Stadium District, we've got the comprehensive plan, we've got the first ward brownfield opportunity area planning document, LWRP. So we'll have a fertile base for, different projects that we can fund.
All project folders. What's LWRP? Local waterfront revitalization plan. Thank you. We're updating it.
Which is actually much larger than it sounds.
Yeah.
Is that part of the old river trail?
It pretty much covers everything between the 2 rivers, most of downtown.
Is that River Trail Commission, is that for Foots?
Yes.
And it's going under.
The River Trail Commission.
Well, under, Bucci, or not,
Right.
I think Bucci
Bucci
started
started
it,
it,
and then, of course, the next administration came in and it got a little complicated. But there's things that River Trail does need.
I think those were identified in this LWRP. Maybe that's another follow-up.
The commission's not functional, but we do have all of the.
Maybe that's another follow-up. We could figure out a way, all of these planning documents, because I know that they're in large PDFs. We find a way to get them on the city website, and then we can have Vito staff share with the BLDC. Here are the 5 links of all these planning documents.
And the climate action plan too.
Yep.
We have a lot
Yep.
of stuff.
All kinds of things.
Yeah, Stadium District Plan is like hundreds of pages. It's
Mm-hmm.
very comprehensive.
So if we just got a new website, so we're kind of updating what's on there, what are the public documents, but
Is it live?
the new website is live. Yeah,
Really?
we got it. Was it last May? We did it last
Yeah,
September.
last summer.
So it's got my face, big
I saw, yeah.
Huge.
I
on it.
imagine.
Everyone's just Xing out
I
as soon
keep
as they
asking to
open it.
make it bigger, but they said it's not possible. The
It's impossible at
pixels
this
won't
moment.
handle it.
Usually have a little bit stuff that's on the website. so I
Yeah,
can just add them
That's a
back.
good next step
Yeah.
for the BLDC.
It's a good one.
Another potential use of funds is the Charles Street Business Park.
Yep.
You know, supporting industry, say
Okay.
water, sewer, infrastructure, lighting, sidewalks.
Yeah, that's definitely a strategic
So now
priority.
we
for
need more
this
money.
group.
You know,
There's-
if we can get it.
I do.
Yeah, there's a number of, Joel sat in on an ARC Southern Tier 8 call yesterday, and they're looking for calls for projects and proposals to use it's a new allocation of $3 million for the
Right.
8-county region.
Right.
So they're looking for calls for proposals, and obviously the state will launch a new round of their consolidated funding application in May. We've got Restore New York money that should be announcing rules and regs on that soon. A new round of downtown revitalization initiative. There's tons of opportunities for funding coming up, and I think it's just identifying what our strategic priority areas are. And that was another thing I wanted to mention as part of this was we have our strategic priorities committee. And we'll want to be activating that to figure out what we should be focusing on, because if we can target specific areas and really try to pump some of this money into these discrete areas, then we can show a lot of progress. It gives anyone who's giving us money the right idea about what we're doing with it, shows real progress, and helps them have confidence in their investment in this group and the city more broadly.
So maybe that committee could have a meeting or something.
Yes. Yep.
And then any board member that wanted to funnel ideas into that, then that could be referred back to the full board for a conversation or action, whatever makes the most sense.
Yes.
And
I
we
agree.
don't want that to go on forever, like sooner than later. So-
No, I agree, definitely before the next meeting.
And, I don't think we're all gonna necessarily read these plans. I mean, I think it might be good.
Executive
for
summary,
reading,
maybe.
but I think, yeah, summaries would be, if we can say we've taken the highlights of this work and used them, that's what you want to do with a plan. Otherwise, it just collects dust and doesn't do anything.
Absolutely. A lot of plans and drawers over the years,
Yeah. We sound smart though if we use it, we refer to plans. People like that.
because nobody else has read them either, Patrick.
That's exactly right.
But yes, we'll definitely convene that committee in the next few weeks.
Okay, great. Super. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. A couple of updates for the board. I'll start with Boscov's. So at the agency's meeting, was that last week? Last Wednesday, they approved a 2-year option for Boscov's to entertain purchase of 7 Court Street, or excuse me, 11 Court Street in downtown Binghamton. So the thought process is, and what our discussions with Boscov's has been, is that we're addressing the parking aspect of the deficiencies that they've been concerned about. They need to make upgrades to that building. They've estimated, probably $15 million worth. They are in a difficult position, having to work to either identify funding, private financing, or their own money, grants, for a building that they do not own, right? And so this has kind of been the big challenge over the years that prevented Boscov's really from investing in the building. So, they have changed their, I think, overall attitude and want to explore purchasing the building. They have to do a lot of due diligence. We're going to be meeting with them on Friday. They have an entire grants team and financing team that's looking at different ways that they can start to chip away at some of these. The city is looking at, as part of the parking garage deconstruction and construction, are there certain elements that we can make it easier for them to do these upgrades? Can we put critical systems in a place that they need to be, as opposed to, where they've been before? So, that will be ongoing. But they are very interested in this. And I believe if they are successful in getting some level of grant funding, historic facade maybe, and some energy efficiency incentives, as well as private financing, and maybe a rabbit or two out of our hat, I'm pretty confident they would want to take ownership of that building. That provides everyone a clean break. It gets the LDC and the IDA out of the landlord business, which is good. And, kind of stakes Boscov's for kind of the next generation downtown. We would certainly have a lot of question marks before the LDC or the IDA would sell the property. And for those kind of new members on the board, the way it works is that if Boscov's vacates that building, the IDA no longer owns it, and it refers back to the Binghamton Local Development Corporation. So ultimately, if something bad happened, the BLDC is left holding the building. Yeah, exactly. So we view this as a positive. We're going to continue to want to know what their plan is. But I commiserate with Boscov's in the sense of that for years, they've been in this kind of purgatory with the building because their elevators have been failing, their escalators have been failing, there's HVAC issues, old boilers, and they were not the landlord. And so that's okay. We can keep moving forward. And that's kind of the latest on the Boscov's end. And once we kind of develop a funding plan, we want to execute this, but I imagine it'll take over the next year or so in order to get that done.
And there's no funding for the BLDC from the state to upgrade a building that we kind of own, not kind of, but do own, to make it attractive for a purchase. Like the HVAC system.
Yeah, so, and again, I was not involved when the city and Boscov's sort of went to the state over the last couple of years on funding. I think that, in principle, it could be, but it never really got the signal of approval. And I think when it got to that point, the state sort of said, it's not something that we can do based on the type of jobs. And, Sarah can
it was
kind
also
of speak to that.
bad timing. I think the conversations were going decently well in early 2020, and then the pandemic happened and the state totally stopped communicating on Boscov's. And then by the time it got brought back to the state in mid 2021, there just wasn't any appetite there to do it. It just seemed really complicated, I think, to the state. I also think they were really reluctant to be the first ones to the table on this and wanted to see that there was some skin in the game from Boscov's, which Jared mentioned they have been changing their tune a little bit on their willingness to put some of their own money up on this. So I think that there's positive momentum that can get the state to the table on this. They're a little gun shy on it, don't want to be the first to the table, and don't want to put themselves in the middle of something that ultimately might fall apart before they see that it has really good structure and support behind it.
Well, do they still have those rounds of economic development like President of Binghamton University, Harvey, and the President of Cornell were strategic leaders,
Regional councils.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that's
Patricia Cummings, who was a
Kevin-
BLDC member, is on that.
Kevin Drum is a co-chair from
Can
BCC.
something be put into that for?
My understanding is that when I was at the state, this went through pretty much every funding source it could have gone through. They brought it up for upstate revitalization initiative funding. They brought it up for REDC, regular CFA funding. They brought it up straight to the governor's office just to see if they could get an allocation. And it was all signs pointing to no on it. Part of it is through our traditional round of economic development funding, there's no job creation, and the jobs that are being retained are not the kind of strategic jobs that the state is looking for in projects. That being said, everyone at the state does recognize that Boscov's is an extremely strategic property, and if things were in more dire straits, I could see there being some more willingness to put things in there. But at this point, they really want to push Boscov's to be the ones to be leading this effort as the private enterprise, and don't want to be first to the table. So I do think that there's opportunities for us to get funding from the state, whether it is through historic preservation or any other infrastructure money that might be available. But I think it's gonna take the project being ready to go before the state's gonna touch it.
And if they if they continue on this path to acquire the real estate, they put a project together as part of that acquisition to improve the building, then you've got something. You're going to have a private sector investment in the city of Binghamton. And whatever that number is, I'm not going to make it up, but some percentage of that, which is what the state does, 30% or whatever, could be supported with some sort of public-private partnership funding. So, and this has not been a realistic possibility up until now. So they're sending signals that they want to be here and they want to be an owner. That's a big deal. So we'll see what happens.
I assume the price of the building is easy for them to handle.
Yeah, yes, well, I mean,
I'm carrying it right in my pocket right
Yeah.
now.
so, and that's kind of the thing is that even at a dollar purchase price, right?
There's a lot.
The building is conditioned right now, it's almost, you have to get to a place where a dollar purchase price even makes sense.
It has negative value.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you don't turn it over to somebody's gonna leave it.
Yeah.
right. Well, the real estate is valuable, but
With that ramp now and the housing project,
Mhm.
it'd be real valuable to have a Boscov's down
No,
here. Although, over the years, we've said, can we live without Boscov's? They're not, upgrading and, but now there's no malls.
Mhm.
And this is where the senior citizens of our Binghamton, Johnson City, Endicott come to shop. It's a glorified Philadelphia sales, but that has value.
right.
It's
That was busy,
really,
by the way.
so Binghamton is one of about a dozen cities in America that have a downtown department store, okay? Taking out, Manhattan and that type of thing. And at 300,000 customers a year, it's pretty much the most visited attraction in downtown Binghamton. More than the stadium, more than the arena, more than the library. It draws the most people downtown, really more than any other anchor. And those people are spending money and, shopping and eating and drinking, and it's
Two
very good.
couples came in the other day from Syracuse. They love Boscov's.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody in there to wait on them, but that's fine with them. They can pick and choose what they want with nobody hanging over them. They came down, they ate lunch at Little Venice, and they shopped in our store, and, their visit to Binghamton was good.
Good.
You can't buy everything on the internet. You gotta go shopping every once in a while, right?
Well, shopping is a sport to some people. It's something to do for that.
Yeah, that's right.
How much is the sale price?
Well, it would basically, I mean, it'd be up to the IDA and with input, I'm sure, from the BLDC, but I can't imagine any type of price other than a $1 sale. Because again, we'd want a plan or something in advance that would get the building to where they would accept $1. Right now, it's kind of a tough sell. Now, someone buying it on speculation with a vacant building, that's a different story,
Right.
but they need to continue to operate their business there.
So the option gives them a chance to.
And they do enough business
Yeah.
there. Right. I don't know what they used to tell us the figures over the years, but I don't think they're below a $14 or $15 million threshold.
They generate about $800,000 in sales tax. So, that's 8% of X, right? You can kind of do the math.
They do
So,
about 11 million in sales.
Pardon?
They do about 11 million in sales right now.
That's still,
it's huge.
justifies the building.
Yeah.
And it'll grow. Once they clean it up, that's the biggest complaint people have. It's too hot in there,
It is so hot
Dirty.
in there.
too cold,
Yep.
the bathrooms.
I want the travel agent back.
Oh, that's where the
Right.
15 million goes to the
The
bathroom.
Ticketmaster. So a couple other quick items, the options that have been discussed on Charles Street Business Park, it's kind of in the hands of those businesses. Bates Troy and also Gear Corps expressed an interest in having an option. Provided them some information. They were talking internally and getting back to us. So I was hoping for an update before this meeting. I haven't received any. We'll continue to talk to them about getting that done. The third thing is cannabis. So I'm going to be talking next week to the State Office of Cannabis Management. I think it's called OCM, about timelines, what people are thinking, how this is going to all happen. The indications that I'm getting is that late 2022, early 2023, we could see the first round of licenses being issued in the state. These would be retail licenses on the social equity side of the equation. So minority-owned businesses would be a part of the first round to apply, or any other kind of social equity type of business. And then in 2023, the floodgates open for the remainder of what will, I'm sure, be highly competitive licenses. The city has a role in a couple different ways. Number one is to update our zoning code to define and regulate our zoning for cannabis dispensaries and also any sort of cultivation or industrial uses. Julia and her team worked on a zoning amendment. We're getting feedback from some individuals in the industry to make sure that we're in line with what the state has. And, very shortly, we'll be probably putting that out for legislative adoption, public comment, that type of thing. The general premise that we have is we want to be not more restrictive than anything the state puts in. There are certain barriers or boundaries with schools and churches. But other than that, we're basically allowing cultivation or industrial applications within our industrial zones, and then dispensary locations within our existing commercial zones. So, we also, as a municipality, when an application for a license comes in, have the ability to basically have a sort of a green, yellow, red on a stoplight, right? Either we support the proposed dispensary location, we are neutral to it, or we oppose it. And that goes in as part of a package to the state in terms of if they're going to grant a dispensary. So, that's a little bit in the weeds, but we'll have the zoning. I was not intended. A little in the weed, actually. I should have, yeah. But we'll be rolling that out, and oh geez.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that'll be out shortly. Number 4. So one of the things that I've been talking to Sarah about in the last couple of weeks is ways to think about pre-development for some strategic city-owned sites or potential future BLDC-owned sites. So I can't say for sure what I mean or what sites they could be. I know that a lot of different sites in the city that are either city-owned, like the one on Brandywine Ave where the former transfer station was, or other sites that may be the site of a previous demolition. If we are going to move forward with trying to do business development there or some type of development, a lot of the times the first question we get asked by a developer is, well, what's the environmentals, and do you have a site survey, that type of thing. My thought is to find a way to fund on some city-owned strategic sites an ability to have a current survey done for that property and a phase 1 environmental, and if necessary, maybe a phase 2. I know it's a lot more expensive. So that way we can build an inventory of pre-development costs that the city already takes on. So you're not asking someone looking at a site to spend a few $1,000s out of their pocket before even knowing what the condition is. That can inform what potential developments could be, and also expedites the process when we start talking to developers. So that's something I want to be talking to Sarah about, and get these properties back on the tax rolls. Yeah,
Development ready.
And we could use BLDC funds to cover those costs. Is that right?
I believe so.
Or not?
Yeah, we've been
No?
talking about how we would potentially do that. I think one of the things we've talked about is fronting the money and then getting it back in the purchase price on the property,
okay.
because I think I think to Jared's point, the initial outlay of funds when you have no idea what's going to come back is much more daunting than, okay, I'll pay the money to do the survey and the environmental because I'm looking at it in my hands right now and I know what it says. So that's kind of what we're thinking right now, but we're looking into any and all options that may exist.
That site preparation charge.
Exactly.
It's already done.
So it's not $1.
Definitely not $1. If you can,
That's
if you
right,
can find
that's
someone
right.
to do it for $1 though, I will take that too.
And last but not least, we were talking about before, potential funding sources and the idea of trying to draw down the fund balance in the BLDC accounts to meet HUD timeliness requirements. The other thing too is, we have the city, our ARPA funds. So that is another source where we can invest in economic development projects, certain infrastructure needs to augment, whether it's a Main Street grant program or infrastructure improvements in low moderate neighborhoods. That can also be allocated as well. And we still have tens of millions of dollars that has been unencumbered for use. So as part of the strategic development, we should be looking at that as a matching funding source as well. And that's all I have.
That's great. The ARPA money, is there a timeline for that? That doesn't get pulled back or anything, does it?
It has to be spent before December 31st, 2026.
Okay, so there's a little bit of time.
Yeah, so I've been kind of thinking about it as listen, one-time infrastructure improvements are great because you pay for them and you draw them down. Or if a program is going to be funded, right, we can make it a program that isn't like a one-year grant, because for a lot of agencies, that's tough. You make it something that they have to spend it through maybe the middle of 2026, because there's also going to be a reporting time period, et cetera.
Right.
So that is unique because we can go to someone and say, you have funding for 4 years, 5 years, which a lot of grants, frankly, don't do. So if they need to hire staff or, cite something somewhere, they have the kind of backing and they know, hey, this money isn't going anywhere.
So we can make that part of the strategic plan committee to
Sure.
perhaps.
Sure, and economic development,
Sure. Okay.
workforce development, that type of thing.
Sure.
I know this may be two separate things, but it may be a good idea to get clarification from the Treasury in regards to ARPA and HUD in regards to the restricted account. Because cannabis is still illegal at the federal level. So if you're planning on using any of the ARPA or restricted loan funds for anything that would even end up with cannabis economic development, there may be issues there, and I don't know exactly what those would be. So it might be a good idea to go ahead now and get some clarification from the feds on that.
I wouldn't anticipate the private sector interest in the New York cannabis market, which is probably believed to be one of the largest in the world once it's legal, once it's here. I don't think there's going to be any shortage of capital for these businesses.
Okay, all right.
It's good to think about, like, if we're gonna do any site prep on something that ends up being cannabis, is that gonna be a problem? Like,
Yeah, interesting.
you'd have to think it wouldn't, but who knows with the federal government.
The trick I've always found is to get the administrator running the grants to send you an email saying they don't think it's a problem. You just print it off and staple it to the wall. If they ever say it's an issue, you go, well, you told me it was fine.
That's why when I was a grant administrator, I never put that in writing.
You should
But that
see what's on my wall right now. Thumbs back to the wall.
It hasn't stopped HUD from changing their mind anyway, right?
Yep, no, but it's harder for them. It's really hard for them.
People you might want to send that stuff through if you forward some Wayne Sheriff. He's been stopping in my office asking who is drafting this stuff, because evidently has 2 or 3 investors that are looking to build and interested in what our rent's gonna be.
All right. So we're on the move.
Wonderful.
Also, the equity portion of Michigan's law got struck down, I believe, by the federal courts as being discriminatory. So there's going to let there may be a similar lawsuit here.
The issuing of it, like at the front end. Okay,
On an
interesting.
equity basis was discriminatory. There was litigation in Michigan about whether the equity structure that Michigan put into issuing their licenses was in itself discriminatory.
And it was found.
Found to be discriminatory, yes. It's not race, that's by definition discriminatory.
And Brian, I know you got to run, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Also, I'll do one quick update though. We did get a dismissal order for the Mark Kelly
For VMR.
for VMR, the individual for Mark Kelly, the principal in VMR.
So we get nothing.
It was, no, his chapter 11 was dismissed, which means he's now no longer protected. We can commence action against him. Now, whether we will get anything is still to be decided, because I think there's a bunch of big players in front of us that go ahead of people. That'll get priority and probably consume all of his assets. But he may be the type of thing where he has friends or family members who would put up money saying, we'll pay percentage, so much money on the dollar
To make it go away.
to make it all go away.
Anything.
Yeah.
We got the interest that we would have been.
All right.
Great. Well, I don't have a ton to say, but I will, I know Patrick seeded this a little earlier, but I'm a 2-time Binghamton University graduate, undergrad in English, then I got my MPA. I currently teach in the MPA program. I teach economic development. I worked at the Port Authority for about 2.5 years after graduation, doing a rotational leadership development program. Worked in asset management, enterprise risk management, and diversity and inclusion in the HR department. Moved back to Binghamton because this is where my now husband lives. So it was a nice welcome home. Went to ESD for a little over 3 years, started as a project manager, ended my time there as a senior project manager, doing grant administration, working with municipalities across the southern tier from Steuben County to Delaware and up through Tompkins. But always really liked my Binghamton portfolio the most. I was in charge of the Greater Binghamton Fund projects, which we're going to try to get some additional projects through what money is left in that fund in Binghamton, because the initial round was primarily Johnson City and Endicott. So we're trying to get some more of that money in the city. And yeah, really excited to be part of this team. It's been a great 2.5 weeks, and Joel and Rachel have been wonderful. Joel knows every piece of property that the city of Binghamton has ever had in it.
It's creepy.
That's why he's on his bicycle.
So if you have a business that needs to relocate or wants to locate in the city of Binghamton, Joel is the man to help them find a place and find the right place. He's already got like 6 businesses on the hook for different locations he's trying to get them into. And Rachel obviously is wonderful as our financial analyst and just keeps the engine going, keeps the office in line. And they've both just been wonderful to work with. It's really a great office, and I've learned a ton in the 2.5 weeks from these folks. And Jared and Patrick stopping by my office to talk my ear off for 2 hours. I may or may not have talked a lot as well, so I'll take that credit.
How much champagne did you bring in?
I'll bribe you yet, Mr. Saul. I got plenty of it for me, so.
Very good. I'll come down to your shop. Yeah, so really excited to see what this group wants to do, and it's been good getting to know what Megan and Jared's priorities are for the city and how those can be run through our office. Been great working with planning and figuring out who all the different players are, who does what around here. Economic development's that weird octopus tentacle that kind of touches everything. So trying to figure out where all the money's hidden, where all the files are, and how we can best leverage the resources we have to accomplish some good stuff. We've had some inquiries from strategic business development at the state level, looking for sites. That's pretty routine, but we always put the Charles Street Business Park in there, trying to entice anyone who's interested. Recently, there was a German tech company that wanted to create 80 jobs and do a couple $1 million of investment in the eastern part of the state. We're the farthest west they would consider going, but hey, we put our hat in the ring for that, and we'll see if anything comes out. Seems like every few days we're getting inquiries on people who want to look at certain properties. So lots of prospects, and we'll try to take some over the finish line, and we'll keep you updated as we go.
How's the Bates Toy venture going?
In terms of Charles Street?
Yeah.
I had asked Brian, gave him
So
some,
there's no more progress with it?
nothing new. He hasn't got back to me with whether he wants to continue moving forward with the option after what we kind of
We
discussed
changed
on
the price of the.
pricing and everything. Yeah.
How long does he have to let you know?
I haven't
There's no
followed up with
timeline,
him.
okay.
There isn't any other current interest in that parcel behind Save Around. So, but I can follow up with him and continue to just ask him, hey, is this something that
And Gear Core is under new management, under new ownership, right?
I believe so?
That
Yes.
was Pete Yeager,
Mhm.
Carl Yeager. They sold it.
Yep. So I was dealing with another Jaeger who worked there.
The son.
Yes.
Nice having a new person come in and taking part in that park.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We tried to market it for 20 years. Nothing.
And now it's hot.
It's just
So.
taken off. It's great.
So that, there's a big difference between someone asking about it and someone actually, signing on the dotted line. So we continue to just keep feelers out and keep talking to people.
It's encouraging.
It is. I mean, I think people are running out of rehabilitations that can be done. We're talking about a 40,000 square foot footprint, right? Where do you go? Endicott's kind of spoken for in a lot of ways. So building from the ground up is going to be where people need to go. And there's limited spots that you don't have to deal with much Charles Street, you don't have to deal with much, right? If you're talking about the Brandywine, you're talking about, again, sites in JC or Endicott, you're dealing with environmental, you're dealing with removing what's there, retrofitting, that type of thing. Very good.
Anything further?
I believe.
Second. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Tom.